WoW needs to bring borrowed power back. Now, go ahead and rage in the comments. I know, I'm waiting. It's intentional. The thing is, you can let us know in the comments what you think about all this, and I'm sure a lot of people would just look at the title and then start commenting, which I absolutely love. But more importantly, in the next video, we have a chat and debate and discuss. Let us know in the comments, or put your topic in the comment, and the topic that gets like the most, I don't know, likes or upvotes or whatever, or the one that we find the most interesting, who knows, or the one that repeats itself all over the goddamn comments will be discussed. So basically, the topics you put on the table, we debate, discuss. How about that? That's how this video series is going to work. You put in the comments a topic and we discuss it.
It's a democracy.
Yes. Does it need it though?
I think so, and this is weird because we've been arguing against this, not we too, but we, the community.
Yes.
Ever since probably Shadowlands. Oh no, BFA actually, I'm sorry, because Legion was kind of okay, introduced it for the first time.
But they had borrowed power back then.
Well, you know, if you're gonna argue that trinkets and tier sets are borrowed power, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole that we're not gonna have a cohesive argument. But I have noticed a lot of people saying, man, I just don't have anything to log in for. There's no more grind to do. That's
always the double-edged sword that was very prominent in World of Warcraft, especially during Legion and BFA, and I would dare say even Shadowlands. Those were borrowed power expansions, man. But they were borrowed power done wrong.
In Legion. Because I really like the artifact weapon. Yeah, I know it had it, but
that was a degenerate, infinite thing going, and it was very painful for, let's say, the present and actual philosophy of WoW, where you play a lot of alts. Remember how hard it was to switch from a spec to a spec? That's the problem. That's the restrictions of a borrowed power made like that in Legion. I'm saying that we're saying that WoW needs borrowed power back, in the sense that we need something extra to have to do, but not be so, how should I put this? Not be that impactful. Now, it has to have impact, but not that much. Borrowed power in Legion, borrowed power in BFA, and borrowed power in Shadowlands had a huge impact.
Yeah.
That was the gist of it. That's why people were doing Torghast. We were doing Torghast to the boredom and like but
that was because it was mandatory. But see, you're saying that, but right now Horrific Visions is a borrowed power that has very low impact, and it sucks to do.
Either so it needs to be a little bit more than that, or it has to be very cosmetic. Like we had the essences in 8.2, I believe.
You know. That's
those
true.
The rank 3 essences or rank 4 essences
those were really cool.
Really like visually upgrade.
Okay, so when you say borrow power, we need to establish something, because when you say borrow power, my WoW brain goes to like something that I normally just grind for a lot of the time, and it makes the expansion very alt-on friendly. And if you don't play all of your characters every day, you're just gonna be super behind with everything. So, but I think we're not talking about that. We're talking about.
No, let's talk about that. Fuck it.
All right,
let's talk about that. This is a new format of a video, so let's just go for it.
It's a fuck it format.
So. When we look at how they did borrowed power in the past, obviously the main problem for people like us, we're not the majority, remember, but it is a problem. It is a very strong contention point. We play a lot of characters, a lot of different specs, so maybe one solution would be, okay, maybe gate this borrowed power for a bit and then just drop it for alts for your account. So you don't get to have the same level of power for your alts, okay? No restriction on the spec, okay? The spec has to, so you play a class, the specs of that class cannot be restricted whatsoever. That's a given.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about alts, you have to have some like reduction in power, but still some sort of like catch up to not feel like a drag every time you want to try out a new spec, a new class. I think that's fair.
I think we actually have the system in place to do that, which is the warband. And I know
it's there.
Yeah, I know you haven't done Horrific Visions yet, but Horrific Visions.
I've done a couple of them.
I don't know if you've done it on alts, because the talent thingy, it's account wide, so that is unlocked account wide. But you still have to grind the memento thingies to get the.
Interesting you say that. Do you think this Horrific Vision situation is actually some testing ground for future borrowed power in Midnight?
Dude, we've been through this so many times times before where they do like weird little events, weird little changes of the systems, and we're like, oh my god, can this be the progenitor of a new cool thing? And it never happens.
It's
but
only fair to assume.
It could be, yeah. I mean, they're not doing things for the sake of it. They could have added anything. They've obviously added horrific visions because they're kind of in tune with the void. They're in theme with the patch. They probably play a little bit into 11.2, which we don't know anything about yet. So that would make sense. I do think that people need a little bit of more incentive to get into the game, to log in, and I think that the Turbo Boost event is part of that because it just gave people and they have the numbers. They've seen once they added Turbo Boost, like oh my god, people are logging in way more, playing way more because there's something else to do, something else to grind for.
It's more accessible in the sense with Turbo Boost. We don't feel it's enough in that regard, but we cannot ignore the fact that we see this in the comments, we see this in the stream chat. People are saying, okay, I got my 3K, I done my Resilient 12 or 13. I don't have much else to do at this point. So it boils down to that moment within the season of an expansion, regardless which it is. Like, is it the first one? Is it the one that will be the craziest one? Doesn't matter really. You always get to a point within a season of WoW where you kind of done with it.
That's the thing. But remember that we used to argue for this a long time ago when we felt like we were never done with the character. When we had Titan Forging.
That's why we're here. That's
when
why we're discussing this.
Yeah, when we had Azrai. So this is a very dangerous ground to walk on.
I'm waiting for all of you to rage in the comments. Bring it.
I think right now they have way better tools to do borrowed power than they had, let's say, in BFA and let's say in Shadowlands when it was like one of the most outraged against system from the community.
Better tools and a way better mentality.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Because at the end of the day, we all are playing a fantasy game, kind of like going deeply into the power fantasy aspect where we kind of want to feel like the time that we invest into the game is going to be beneficial for our character. And the WoW player mentality is basically like, what do I get out of this? Or how does this help? And we say that, it's not a big deal. It cannot be a big impact in power. And even still, like we've seen it with the dinar system, because we've done some maths. And people complaining that you cannot get the myth track version of the trinket, which is, a kind of like a borrowed power, because they're stuck with the hero track. But if you really look at the math, the difference in power is like 0.7%, maybe 1% between the hero version and a myth track version. So the gains are so tiny, yet people are so inclined to go for it because they want that sense of progression. They want that sense of like, what I do gives me value or increases my character and power. Even if it's like so tiny, if somebody says that's the best, they're just going for it.
Yeah, true. And we have to make the statement, as we did in the past videos as well, tier sets are borrowed power. Make no mistake. That's like the first form of it, and that has been in the game since forever, except BFA and Shadowlands first 2 seasons. Okay, so that's always been like the concept of it is the same. You have some extra type of power which you have to work towards for getting the 2-set, getting the 4-set. Now you upgrade. It's all that mess, right? It's either they have to either go for power increase, not as little as the horrific visions do right now, or giga cosmetics. I always said this. If they put in the game super enchants, different spell effects for different abilities, skins for your spec or your armor, dyeing your colors on different armor sets, that would be amazing. Plus, I think that could be a possibility when housing comes around, because you can dye some stuff over there, but let's not digress too much. So they either go for a less impactful but still relevant power gain, and that would be infinitely to have people do something and be incentivized to still play and do content after you done with the excitement and you achieved everything you set out to achieve for yourself in the game, or bring in that famously carry on their back the game art team and make that, take that decision, put those nice transmogs in, mounts, as I said, different spell effects for different abilities and stuff. I think people would be incentivized to still play for that, but they have to be a lot. They have to be. Remember Legion with all of the artifact skins. Okay, so you didn't only have the infinite grind for artifacts. You also had to grind
the
and work
cosmetics.
your ass out for your skins. And
they
those were
were-
some of the most amazing.
They were
they've
all
done.
different. You had to either do raids every week for a couple of months. You had to do dungeon achievements. You had to do the mage star. You had to like find the
Yes.
secret one hidden in some mob or chest
Yeah,
and stuff.
but you had stuff to do. I don't
Yeah.
remember in Legion, although I was mainly PvPing at the time, but I was doing a lot of extra stuff for this. And even in PvP seasons back in the day, Legion, it really sounds like it was so...
Bro, it still feels like yesterday sometimes.
Yeah. But it was still it came to a point where you felt like bored, or you got your, I don't know, 2.2K rating in arenas or whatever. Similar to PvE, you probably got your head of the curve or cutting edge or whatever.
Sure.
Your Mythic Plus rating for the first time. At one point, something came along. It's like, man, I'm kind of done. Nah, Legion wouldn't let you do that. You had so many things to go to chase after. You either chased your power infinitely, or you chased all of the other stuff that would enhance visually your character. You know what I'm saying? So it has to be one of these two. I'm still going for the power, though.
They definitely have the grounds laid out for the hero talents, where they could use the hero talents as the blueprint to add spell effects.
Yeah. Well, let me let you in on something. I hate hero talents. I think it's the lazy way of doing things, and it's the lazy way of just adding and reshuffling talents within the existing talents. It's my opinion.
I was mostly talking about the cosmetics, like if you are
of course we did talk about cosmetics with the hero talents. They had their chance. I don't think it's gonna happen. Like, they didn't prove they could do this properly, because they had a big chance for all of these specs. And I know they did the hunter animations, which were really cool, which we covered. There's a couple of things done well there, but they had the chance to go full on out of there, and they didn't go for it. That had to be the 100% most like no-brainer to put in what would be like one of the most epic things in the game up until now. Just give me the visual representation. I want to be a Templar Paladin. Make me look like a goddamn Templar Paladin. I want to be a Slayer Fury, put out all that goddamn blood all around me and all that stuff. I don't want to go there, because we're digressing a bit, but it is an option.
Yeah.
What is the best option?
Could have been an easy slam dunk.
Because this would not satisfy the 1%ers. Okay, this cosmetic thing couldn't give two rats ass about this. So what is the solution here? Because we know they cater to the 1% as well. They never ignored those people.
Yeah, well, that's the loyal player base, and you cannot really ignore it. Those are the people who keep playing the patch after 3 months when everybody else is taking a break.
What's the best approach here? Do we go for that slight increase in power, more than what we have now, or horrific visions? Or do we go for Giga Cosmetics, like the most epic things you've ever seen, both within your armor and your actual spell effects? Or do we go for a compromise?
The thing is, we live in a world where right now every patch and every season is about, I think, 39 item levels increase in power from the previous one. So the power creep is super huge in between each patches, to the point where we started this expansion where we had like what, 1 million HP, 2 million HP.
I remember. Let's not get into the details.
And now we're like in the tens, and by the end we're gonna have like about, I don't know, 50 million HP. It's just like ridiculous numbers. Maybe it's not that important, but it skews the perception of player power, and it skews the perception of like what your character is supposed to do when you just have like just more zeros on the screen. So when you add constant increases in player power, how are we gonna do this? Are we gonna do this like the 6 item levels of turbo boost, which obviously seems really good, but if we do this every consistent patch, it's just gonna get like to some ridiculous, where every expansion we're gonna have a number squish, and then it's like a whole different can of worms.
I don't know why they don't. Probably it's a technical thing, but they should just go down to like super low numbers. Instead of like every once or twice 2 expansions do the number squish, just go on 1 expansion, just
just
get it all down. Like my crit is for 100, man. I slap that mob. 100 means half the HP of a mob in plus 12.
Like the olden days.
Yeah. Then you have room.
You know what? I've watched probably everybody has watched Dradnos' latest video with his rants, and one thing that came to mind when I saw his video is item sets. Item sets that are not just tier sets. It can be a crafted set. It can be a seasonal dungeon set. Collect 10 pieces of this dungeon, and then you make like a 2-set on your rings, or you make a belt and a boot and a cloak
Item
type
sets.
set.
There were things like that in WoW in the past. I remember.
Yeah, and we can and
trinkets.
that opens up a lot of options for them to edit. They can add like Bloodthirst now hits 5 targets and does execute damage, or your Whirlwind turns into Bladestorm, or they can do stuff like that for all of the classes.
That's an option,
and it's
sure.
like on a 2 to 3 item piece. It's a seasonal thing. It can go away, and it can take a lot longer to grind than the tier set. It can be a complementary thing to the tier set, or it can be, oh, this only works if you have the 4 pieces of the tier set to incentivize people to keep grinding and get this item power. And then maybe it can be like an achievement where your alt has it, but you still need to upgrade it all the way up to whatever highest item level gear you have.
Yeah, it's a very good idea, and I think like if you want to like please everybody, you have to give something in this regard for the 1%ers, so they would be happy as fuck because they would be able to like constantly like grind to get to the ultimate power and not even then never stop. But it also has to have some sort of significance for people who don't really care that much or don't have to feel forced to do this. We don't want to go back to like the World of Warcraft. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
So if it's gonna be a borrowed power, regardless if it is like two sets like item sets, like trinket sets, ring sets, neck and ring, whatever it is, or something extra completely, it has to be very enjoyable to get. Because if it's gonna be grinding something like Torghast all the time or island expeditions like in BFA, they don't. Sadly, we're coping now, but they don't have a good track record of bringing you nice gameplay for getting that power. So. In my humble opinion, if they're gonna bring it, and I'm at this point seeing how the numbers are for WoW, and it's not doing great, even though it's a great expansion, but it's not doing great. It's clear now, for us at least, that WoW did better, even with all the heavy criticism. It still did better during the borrowed power days, and I'm not talking the COVID
pandemic,
system.
yeah.
So that kept people coming back more. I don't know why. Maybe it's something with the human psyche. So I'm sure it is. But it's clear we need something external to keep our asses engaged and hooked on. Because if that doesn't happen, you have situations like you had in Dragonflight, where Dragonflight had like a lot of season going into drought mode. We're going to have situations like War Within Season 1 and now Season 2, where you're going to have a lot of people leaving because a lot of people get their stuff, they get done, and there's nothing else to do. Plus you have the competition. I don't know, all of the other games that are coming out, and you're done with WoW. You've done your keys, you've done your CE or whatever, right?
I think this is a much deeper problem because you're saying that it did well, and it did well, but we're also looking we have to look through the lens of WoW went through some major backlash that made a lot of people jaded, and that's 3 expansions ago when WoW was doing really well. And WoW is doing less and less good with each expansion because it's formulaic approach. Because okay, sure, this new this new expansion brings a cool new shit, but it's still a raid, it's still a dungeons, it's still get a tier set and the trinkets and play the class. Right now we just have a couple of more talents which are not really choices in hero talents, but the formula is the same. And the borrow power, like even if they bring it back, it's not obvious that it's gonna work. But what we could actually say is that right now the tier sets are kind of boring, and they have been criticizing boring. Because what was interesting about borrow power, sure, you might not have liked it, but the legendaries in Shadowlands did impact your gameplay quite a bit. It made, for instance, like Prot Warrior have a different effect on its spell.
I would say the best example would be better example and best the essences. Those were impactful, and those were like
there was like so grindy, but that was like once you got them, you felt
it, and it looked the part, and it played the part, and it was that impact.
Okay, it was impactful, and that was the same. And we're talking about essences when they were, I think didn't they add like a way to purchase them at one point?
At one point, yeah, but still,
because the grinding,
I didn't mind the grind for essences that much, except for the PvP one, which was ridiculous.
Blood of the enemy,
Conflict and Strife.
Oh, and but Blood of the Enemy was the best one. We used Conflict and Strife because we did a lot of arenas at the time.
It was those were the only two that hurt. Otherwise, the grind for those really implicated you to just play the game more or less, like do the raid, do dungeons, all of that.
And even with the corruptions, that was like probably the best WoW has ever been with a borrowed power system when it was just
All
crazy
out.
across the board.
Yeah.
And it goes to show because it happened then when they ripped the cord and they just gave just you get everything, guys. Just have all of the things that happened with the covenants as well. As much as we trashed them whenever they made covenants switchable, it's like, oh my god, I want to swap my covenant for this dungeon and see how that works out. When you give people more shit to do, even if it's borrowed
And
power,
options. That borrow power definitely needs to be like swappable, changeable, or adaptable.
No, not gated, not restricted, not.
We covered this. No restrictions whatsoever. Okay, restrictions. Sure, there could be some restrictions when you're talking about that level of power you gain from a main to be transferred from an alt. That wouldn't be fair. Those need
to work a little bit for it.
Exactly. But again, as opposed to Legion, you cannot really like gate me if I'm playing Red Paladin and like for 2 weeks.
You're never respecing. That's fine. You're Red Paladin forever.
I don't want that. I want to try Prod. I want to try Holy, right? But it gives them and another thing that they need to do, and I think we can wrap it up with this one. What they did in the past with borrowed power, and this was very, very heavy in Shadowlands, I felt, and in Legion to some capacity, they should not gimp the specs to just complete them with some borrowed power. No. The specs need to be fully on functional and not feel hollow without this borrowed power. The borrowed power needs to enhance, needs to gain. Not because you remember we talked about this during Shadowlands, especially during Shadowlands Alpha. The specs felt so weak up until the point you got your legendaries, you got your covenants, and everything felt like they were ripped from their specs, from their like actual capabilities, and put on this external barrier. That doesn't need to happen. The specs, like how we have now, the talents and everything, they should work. They should not feel hollow. And borrow power should just like add on top of it.
Borrow power was also an easy way to fix certain problems with the spec, and maybe they've gotten complacent. Obviously, you said that the mindset has changed, so hopefully we're no longer in that situation.
Cope.
Because I don't want to say that hero talents fixes some of these specs, but to be fair, if Power didn't have hero talents, if Warlock didn't have hero talents, if Druid didn't have hero talents, that would be boring ass classes at this point.
I agree, and I can tell you at the same time that all of those hero talents could have been baked, replaced, or put in the existing talents and have something else. I remember talking to somebody, which we will not name, who used to work there, and he was saying that he was opposing this idea very, very much when they were discussing it back in the development stages, and there were other way cooler ideas to go about what would be the extra thing from War Within, right? So there were other ideas, but this one was like, I think in terms of the delivery, the schedule they needed to respect, this was the best thing.
100%. It was very not rushed, but very bland and very bare bones. When you look, especially at the Hunter, so much so that they had to like completely rrework it for 11.1. Where Dark Ranger, probably the poster child of borrowed power, was like the worst and most boring one in the game. So it's definitely a hit and miss. It's definitely something that they need to put a lot more effort and resources and priority into, because it comes down to what's the War Within? What's the thing with the War Within? Oh, you have hero talents, and then people are not gonna go into the systems and how good the expansion actually is, because it is. They're gonna look at the shiny new thing, and the shiny new thing is usually the borrow power. And right now, the shiny new thing is the hero talents. And if you're gonna get your friend in, and what are you gonna tell your friend? Oh, you have like 7 classes with awesome borrow power, but I want to play one of them. No. Those are no. Just play these. But WoW has 39 specs.
Exactly. But yeah, so this is kind of like the situation with borrow power. I believe it's going to come. If not in midnight, although I do believe in midnight we're going to have borrowed power. If it's not going to happen then, I'm going to bite my tongue, and it's 100% coming in the last add-on. At least Ian did say that at some point it's going to come back. So we know it's on the horizon.
They're already using hero talents as borrow power because their initial concept is like they're going to go away after the World Soul Saga. It's just something that lasts 3 expansions instead of 1. They're probably going to reiterate on it, but depending on the reception, they're probably going to switch it with something else.
Yeah. Now, click this video out. Now, again, click out the video. I don't know how that works. Click this video and check it out. It's all about... What is it about, Flame?
It's about Top 10 races in World of Warcraft that needs to come in midnight to save the game.
Click it.